JavaScript is the language that turns static, lifeless HTML pages into dynamic, interactive experiences. But before you can build complex web applications, interactive games, or server-side scripts, you must master the fundamental building blocks of the language: variables and operators. Think of variables as the storage boxes that hold your data, and operators as the tools you use to manipulate, combine, and compare those boxes. Together, they form the foundation of almost every line of JavaScript code you will ever write. In this comprehensive guide, we will dive deep into JavaScript variables, var, let, and const, and explore every category of operators with clear, real-world examples. 1. Demystifying JavaScript variables. In programming, data needs to be stored temporarily so that we can use, modify, or display it later. A variable is a named container used to store data values. The evolution of variables, var, let, and const. Historically, JavaScript only had one way to declare variables, the var keyword. However, as applications grew more complex, var introduced scoping issues and bugs. To solve this, modern JavaScript, ES6, introduced two new keywords, let and const. Let's examine how these three keywords differ in terms of scope, reassignment, and hoisting. A. The legacy keyword, var is function scoped. This means if a variable is declared inside a function using var, it is only accessible within that function. However, if it is declared inside a block, like an if statement or a for loop, it leaks out and is accessible globally or throughout the enclosing function. Key characteristics of var: scope, function scoped. Redeclaration, allowed. You can declare var x equals 1 and var x equals 2 in the same scope without any error. Hoisting, yes, initialized as undefined. B. The modern standard, let. Introduced in ES6, let is block scoped. A block is defined by any set of curly braces. This means variables declared with let inside a loop, conditional statement, or function cannot be accessed outside of that specific block. Key characteristics of let: scope, block scoped. Reassignment, allowed. You can change the value later. Redeclaration, not allowed within the same scope. C. The immutable reference. Const stands for constant. Like let, it is block scoped. The primary difference is that once a value is assigned to a const variable, it cannot be reassigned. Important note on objects and arrays: while you cannot reassign a const variable to a completely new value, the contents of arrays and objects declared with const can be modified. Comparison of variable declarations. Feature var let const. Scope, function scope, block scope, can be reassigned? Yes, yes, no. Can be redeclared? Yes, no, no. Hoisted? Yes. Initialized to undefined? Yes. Temporal dead zone? Yes. Temporal dead zone. Naming rules and best practices for variables. To write clean, professional JavaScript code, you must follow strict naming rules. Case sensitivity. My variable and my variable are two different variables. Allowed characters. Variable names must begin with a letter, an underscore, or a $sign. They cannot start with a number. No reserved keywords. You cannot name a variable let, class, return, or function. Use camel case. By convention, JavaScript developers use camel case for multi-word variables, e.g., user registration date, total price. Always use const by default. Use const for all variables. Only switch to let if you know you need to reassign the value later. Avoid var entirely. 2. Exploring JavaScript operators. Operators are symbols that tell the JavaScript engine to perform specific mathematical, logical, or comparison operations on values, known as operands. For example, in the expression x plus y, the plus is the operator and x and y are the operands. Category 1. Arithmetic operators. Arithmetic operators are used to perform standard mathematical calculations. Addition, plus, adds two numbers. Subtraction, subtracts the second number from the first. Multiplication, asterisk, multiplies two numbers. Division, divides the first number by the second. Modulus, percent, returns the division remainder. Extremely useful for finding even, odd numbers. Exponentiation, asterisk, raises the first operand to the power of the second operand. Increment, plus, increases a number by 1. Decrement, decreases a number by 1. Category 2. Assignment operators. Assignment operators are used to assign values to variables. The most common is the basic assignment operator, equals, but JavaScript also offers compound assignment operators that perform an operation and assign the result simultaneously. Operator. Name. Equivalent expression. Example. If x equals 10, result equals. Assignment x equals y, x equals 5x becomes 5. Plus equals. Add and assign x equals x plus y, x plus equals 5x becomes 15. Equals. Subtract and assign x equals x, y, x equals 3. X becomes 7. Equals. Multiply and assign x equals x asterisk y, x asterisk equals 2. X becomes 20, equals. Divide and assign x equals x, y, x equals 2. X becomes 5. Percent equals. Modulus and assign x equals x percent, y, x percent equals 3. X becomes 1. Category 3. Comparison operators. Comparison operators compare two values and return a Boolean value, either true or false. They are critical for creating decision-making structures, like if-else statements. A. Loose equality, equals equals, versus strict equality, equals equals equals. This is one of the most common topics in JavaScript interviews. Loose equality, equals equals, compares two values for equality after performing type coercion, converting both values to a common type. Strict equality, equals equals equals, compares both the value and the type without coercion. B. Inequality operators. Loose inequality. Smiley face checks if values are not equal, allowing type coercion. Strict inequality. Equals smiley face checks if either value or type is not equal. C. Relational operators. Greater than, 15 greater than 10, returns true, less than, 5 less than 2, returns false, greater than or equal to, greater than equals, 10 greater than equals 10, returns true, less than or equal to, less than equals, 7 less than equals 10, returns true. Category 4. Logical operators. Logical operators are used to determine the logic between variables or values. They are usually used with Boolean values to control program flow. A. Logical n returns true if both operands are true. If the first operand is false, JavaScript stops evaluating. This is called short-circuit evaluation. B. Logical OR returns true if at least one of the operands is true. C. Logical NOT inverts the Boolean value of an operand, turns true to false and vice versa. Category 5. The ternary operator, conditional operator. The ternary operator is the only JavaScript operator that takes 3 operands. It is frequently used as a concise, one-line alternative to traditional if-else statements. Syntax. Example. Category 6. Type operators. Sometimes you need to inspect the data type of a variable before running operations on it. Type of. Returns a string indicating the type of the unevaluated operand. Instance of. Returns true if an object is an instance of a specific object type. 3. Operator precedence and associativity. When you write expressions with multiple operators, JavaScript needs a set of rules to determine the execution order. This is known as operator precedence. For example, why does 3 plus 4 asterisk 5 equal 23 and not 35? Because multiplication, asterisk, has higher precedence than addition, plus. Parentheses. Overrides precedence. If you want addition to happen first, you must wrap it in parentheses, which have the highest precedence of all operators. Associativity. When operators have the same precedence level, JavaScript evaluates them based on their associativity. Left to right associativity. Most operators, like plus, asterisk, are evaluated from left to right. Right to left associativity. Assignment operators, equals, plus smiley face, and exponentiation, asterisk asterisk, are evaluated from right to left. 4. Common pitfalls to avoid in JavaScript. Pitfall 1. Understanding implicit type coercion. JavaScript is a dynamically typed language. If you apply operators to mismatched types, JavaScript will try to silently convert them behind the scenes. This often produces unexpected results. The solution: always use strict equality, equals equals equals, to avoid accidental type coercion. Pitfall 2. The temporal dead zone, TDZ. When you use let or const, the variables are hoisted to the top of their block, but they are not initialized. The period between block entry and initialization is called the temporal dead zone. Accessing them here will crash your script. Conclusion: putting it all together. Understanding the nuances of JavaScript variables and operators is like learning the grammar rules of a spoken language. Once you master how data is stored, let versus const, and how it can be processed and manipulated, operators, writing complex algorithms, conditions, and workflows becomes second nature. Summary checklist for daily coding: avoid var entirely in modern applications, stick to const by default, and use let only when values must change. Always use and instead of and equals to protect your applications from unpredictable type coercion. Make use of parentheses to explicitly define the execution order in complex expressions rather than relying on memorized operator precedents. Use short-circuit evaluation (NNN) to write cleaner, more elegant code.